this episode of Amazing Food and Drink, I'm going to be talking about my food journey from Donegal, a little fishing port called Killybegs in the southwest of the county. Be looking at my journey through owning a fishing boat, to sheep farming, to inheriting a sheep farm, to opening a little tea house, turning it into a restaurant, and running a pub and becoming a chef. So bear with me as the story gets told.
So welcome to Amazing Food and Drink TV. We're here today with Hugh O'Donnell, the owner and founder of Hughies Bar in Killybegs, and he also owned a restaurant previously called Kitty Kelly's, and Hugh is going to tell us all about his story. And Hugh, thanks very much for coming in, and over to you. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm from Donegal. I was actually born in New York. My parents were immigrants, and my mother used to work in the restaurant business on Fifth Avenue. She served Marilyn Monroe during the 7-year itch.
My God.
And they moved back in '63, and they bought the pub, the family pub, and we were brought up over the bar. And so it was kind of a 23.5-hour license that time. So the bar, because of the fishing industry, Killybegs is a fishing port.
That's right.
So basically, we very quickly became cannon fodder for the bar, and we would be thrown in there to wash glasses and stock shelves, and at that time we used to bottle the Guinness as well, and the bottles of Smithwick's and Phoenix and all those Double Diamond, all those old brands that are nearly all gone, bar Guinness and Smithwick's. So it was a pleasant upbringing, and it was really, really nice, and it was sometimes during the summer, it would be hard going, you know, to try and keep an eye on us. So we were shipped up to our aunt's farm up in Longford, which was a great treasure chest of farming and, you know, self-sufficiency and, you know...
And away from the parents.
And away from the parents, but in the middle of nowhere, really. And what's the slang word for Longford? Long forgotten county, I think.
That's right.
So we used to see hams curing and hanging down from ceilings and pigs being killed and, you know, horses and cows and milk and dairy and the whole lot up there. So I think I got a great induction into food, and plus the fact I was being brought up in a fishing town when I came home from Longford. So you were always getting bags of fish, and fishermen used bags of fish like a currency, you know, and they might give you a bag and you get something in return for it, you know.
A couple of pints?
Well, yeah, and the other people, everybody was trading with wee bags of fish, you know, and these bags of fish would be lying at the window as you came in the door, and sometimes after a few pints the owner of the bags of fish would forget to take them with them, you know. So a few locals used to say, "See them bags? They're little bags of worries. People bring them in and they leave without them."
Very good.
Without the fish.
As a city slicker, that is absolutely alien to me, but it sounds brilliant.
Yeah. So we always had great fresh fish in Killybegs, and Killybegs is by and large a pelagic town, so it's a landing pelagic meaning oily fish,
Yeah.
like mackerel and herring. Mackerel's the main fish at the moment, but herring stocks went under threat, and there was a lot of conservation measures. And so we were always cooking fish, and it was kind of natural food, and we were, you know, it was always a part of the diet.
And tell me, would they sell the fish locally, or is it for the export market?
Well, at the time it was locally, you know, there was an auction hall on the pier and the buyers would come in and buy it and that. But years later, after I came home from college, my father died in 1986, so I was 26, so I ended up kind of being sucked into the bar to take over the bar.
Okay.
And previous to that, I was a teacher in a secondary school, so I was just starting my teaching career, and I came back to do this. And so I then, along with a friend of mine who had a fishing license for tonnage, there was a kind of a lottery system going for new licenses, and he applied for it and he got the new license, and he asked me would I come involved in the fishing industry with him.
Very good.
So we ended up buying our own fishing boat called the Mary Dawn, and prior to this it had been up at the Scottish oil wells, and we had to do a full-scale conversion into a fishing trawler. Now, when I say trawler, we started off making it a gill netter first, you know, and basically a gill netting isn't really looked upon as politically correct anymore because it's just visualized.
Trawls everything?
Well, it's like a tennis net in the middle of the tennis court, and we're all swimming in and we get caught by the gill.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very fine mesh, and it's really probably not eco-friendly. to fish stocks. So we were doing that, but we were only there was some conditions attached to the fisheries license, the new one that we just won, and we weren't allowed. We were only allowed to fish box 7 and box 7. Sorry, box 6 and box 7, which is off Mayo up to North Donegal.
Okay.
So we weren't allowed to go down south to Kerry, or we weren't allowed to kind of get up to the kind of Rock Hall area and that type of thing. So it was so we had to fight away a lot of campaigning and going to politicians to see could we get the restrictions lifted, which we eventually did because they were threatening the sustainability of the boat. And by begging and borrowing, we actually managed to convert it to a trawler. So a trawler is like pulling a shopping bag after you, and the fish have a choice to swim in or out. You know what I mean? And they kind of, if they're small enough, they get out at the other side.
Brilliant.
And they don't get caught by the gill net, you see. So that was much more eco-friendly, and I have to say we got great success with it. And then a new piece of legislation came into place in the south where the fishing, the white fishing sector, which is what we were in, monkfish, hake, haddock, that type of thing, cod.
Cod, yeah.
That was those stocks were kind of under threat, and the boats that were out fishing them were having to go further way out into the Atlantic beyond the continental shelf.
Okay.
And they were really not fit for purpose, and they were kind of unsafe. So the government came in with this safety measure to upgrade these boats, so you could qualify for a 50% grant. So my partner wanted to go on to the next level, and he wanted to buy a 7 million boat, and we were going to get 3.5 million grants, but it meant we would have had to borrow
come up with 3.5 million, yeah.
So I was getting nervous at this stage, and I decided no, I needed to get out and let him go in further on his own, which he did. But the boat was built in Denmark, and by the time it arrived in Ireland, the actual stocks that it was fishing and had based all its sustainability on, like orange roughy and that, they were ex-quota, and suddenly quotas were slapped on them while the boat was being constructed. So by the time that boat sailed into Killybegs on its maiden voyage, it was doomed. It didn't have a financial viable future.
Oh my God.
So I was very, very lucky to get out of it, and my friend, my ex-partner, was very lucky to eventually get out of it after, selling it off and that.
Thank God.
But I had turned my energy to opening a little restaurant. It was a little farmhouse that we had. My father also had a farm which I'd kind of taken over, and it was basically a hill sheep farm, And I'm not saying it was the best sheep farm, but I learned how to put in lambing beds back into the ewes and do their feet and
good God,
inject them and dose them and that type of thing for worms. So it was pleasant doing it, but I suffered from hay fever, and it wasn't a great occupation to be doing with hay fever. And but we had this little house, and it was just the old farmhouse that had been basically restored, and the council had developed a little viewing point overlooking Donegal Bay, which is just about 100 metres away from the house. So I decided to turn it into a tea house.
Amazing.
So it was just called the Tea House, and it's on the worst bend in Ireland. I mean, you would have to really bless yourself to get off the road and get into the car park. But it did a huge business, and we started off doing, Irish stew and cod, salted cod, and white sauce.
All traditional
stuff. Creamy mashed potato, that type of thing. Yeah. No airs and graces. We made our own tea bracks and brown breads and scones, and it was really, really busy, but in hindsight, when you look back on it, it was really hard to make money because you're getting low spend, and you're as busy washing all these cups and saucers, and everything has to go through the washer again. You know? So by accident, I stumbled into taking it on as an evening restaurant, and I could see the huge increase.
And were you doing both simultaneously?
No, at first I started off as the tea house, and after a couple of years of that, I decided the money was in the evening, because let's face it, you can sell a starter, a pre-dinner drink, a starter, a main course, a dessert, a bottle of wine, maybe an Irish coffee, and phone them a taxi, So the sales were kind of quadrupled, and for the same effort and energy and all that. And so in order to move away from the tea house, we had to come up with a new brand, and I was just a great believer in anything like Dirty Nellies, with 2 Y's. So I came up with Kitty Kelly's.
Yeah, it was very catchy.
But it was catchy, but I spent an awful lot of time explaining who Kitty was.
Should have made up a backstory for her. It was your great granny.
Yes, and no, we came up with a lot of stories, but I think we stretched the credibility of a factor on it. So basically, I started that about 80, 89, and I only sold the restaurant 2 years ago, in about 2017, and I sold it to a really nice couple, a Frenchman, Remy Dupois, and his wife Donna, who's local. But Remy was the head chef in Castlemurray House Hotel, which a lot of people would know
I have been
about.
there many a time.
And he's French style cooking, and he's taken it now, and he's taken it to a new level where it's very much fine dining. I love it. I still like going up there, and but the fine dining is I mean, when you say fine dining, it's not a rip off fine dining. It's very affordable. I mean, the last time I was up, it was €26 for Sunday lunch, you know, for 3 courses and coffee.
Fantastic.
And it's lovely.
And if it's anything like the food was in Castlemurray House, it's out of this world. He does a dish with monkfish tails, prawns, and garlic on top, and give you bread to dip in. Oh my God!
Well, we kind of stole that dish off him originally, and put it on our menu, and it was really lovely and a big seller. But we had loads of lovely dishes at the time, and we were very experimental. Like we were doing mackerel in Seville style, and we were, you know, marinating it in orange and segments of orange, and it really bleached the orange. The acidity of the orange bleached the fish to nearly white. You know, it was nearly like chicken. It broke down the bone texture, you know, and made it
cutting edge stuff.
It was really lovely, and of course we did our own desserts, and everything was homemade, and I think we were a bit ahead of the posse. But the fact that I had such strong links with the fishing, I was able to get like really good quality fish fresh off the boat into the restaurant, and
nearly design your menu around that then.
Yeah, and then we used fish that you wouldn't really see, like gurnard. I mean, gurnard's such a lovely fish.
I've had gurnard.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's like monkfish. Monkfish years ago wasn't appreciated by local people, and the head of the monkfish is quite ugly, and they used to think we called it the devil's fish. And nobody really wanted to touch it, you know.
They used it for bait, if I'm not wrong. I think at one stage,
they would think it was bad luck to have on the boat. And I think it was the French that introduced us to monkfish, you know. And what else? The gurnard are brought in, and gurnard's used as bait for lobsters, and that's how much, you know, there's a kind of a hierarchy of respect amongst the fish world. Yeah. And the fishermen don't have much respect for gurnard, even though I think it's a great fish,
nice fish,
beautiful fish. And I think the best I've ever seen it cooked was here in Belfast with Moran Seafood Bar. They're big fans of
Andy Ray, yeah.
So the other thing I learned as well in dealing with fish was going back to the time of the fishing boat, the Mary Dawn. You asked me earlier, where do we sell the fish? It was always local. But by the time we were selling fish the first year when we'd done the trawler, we were really getting the worst price possible. And what was kind of happening was that the fish buyers had nearly agreed the price before the boat arrived in. I'll bid on this and you buy so-and-so's fish and I'll buy that. So there was no
real...
like
a closed shop.
It was like a cartel that was operating, and we weren't really getting beyond the sustainable, you know, the viable price.
Break even stuff,
So we came in contact with a Spanish guy from Barcelona who was a fish agent, and he wanted to buy our fish direct. And he would take it over by lorry to Barcelona and sell it within 2 days on the Barcelona fish market, and we would get the price and he would get a cut. And I know a lot of these things are something you put your faith in God and say, I don't know, is this going to work? Will we ever see that? Money for that?
Again,
But he was really solid and really reputable, and he got us, like, he increased the profitability of the boat by something like 40%.
Oh my God.
We were getting premium prices. And we had broke away from this local market, and we weren't too popular with fish buyers, but we were very popular with our bank manager, who was worrying about us. And then other smaller whitefish boats start to follow suit. So that at the moment now, you will not get a whitefish sold on the pier in Killybegs. Auction hall is gone, and people are constantly selling direct to the Barcelona market, you know.
Brilliant. And that still happens this day?
Still happens this day. Now, as well as that, I don't want to, like, you know, claim the whole success of that, but a lot of Spanish boats have actual tonnage rights to catch fish in the western seaboard of Ireland, and they land in Killybegs, and they have their own lorries as well that land, so it's out of town, you know.
Brilliant.
One could argue it's sad for the town in a sense because you could add on processing value, but Killybegs is just not a huge whitefish town. Pelagic is the way that people make money, fish processing, freezing, and Dunmore East down in the east coast of Ireland and Castletown Bear, they're the main towns. That's the capital of the whitefish sector. We're the capital of the oily fish in the north.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
Good theme for a festival, the oily fish.
Oily fish, very good indeed. You were a teacher, Flip. You've been a sheep farmer, a fisherman, and then a publican.
Well, a publican, yeah, and I have to say in the beginning I was probably apprehensive again. You know, bar was just, you know, you have to have a kind of a big gregarious personalities for sometimes for a bar and a fishing town and know the price of fish and all these kind of things, you know. So I suppose what happened was I evolved into the bar and I became comfortable with the bar, but I began to get the bar to kind of reflect my own personality. And I would factor myself as very creative, and so I'm always trying to do things as they were different, you know. So like we were the first to get in on the gin. We were never really a gin and tonic bar prior to the gin craze and the premium gin craze and, you know, the big goblet glasses and that type of thing. So we were very quick in there, and like that was huge for bars. It really rescued a lot of bars. It gave the
gin revolution.
It did. It gave people an introduction to tonics, and like we have 12 gins, premium gins, and we have 12 tonics to match, you know.
Brilliant.
I'm just back from Cheshire there, the Taste of Cheshire, and I came across this guy who does these little vials of syrups that you can use for making your own tonic using the soda water, and you add the syrup and then you add it to the gin, you know. So it kind of lets everybody become a mixologist.
Very innovative.
Loved it, and I must see.
Are you bringing it back to Hughies?
Well, I took that little gift box back, but I'm going to have to see is there a sensible way of, you know, buying it and sourcing it. I think he's very small scale at the moment. He's in the university in Chester at the moment.
Or develop your own.
Or develop our own, you know, because we have a tourism college in Killybegs. So when I came back to Killybegs, got involved in the bar, then got involved in the fishing, and then got involved in the restaurant business. The next thing that was screaming out at me is I had only one chef at the time, and she was brilliant, but she needed 2 days off a week, and it was really hard to get that extra person to fill in for 2 days. So she introduced me to cooking. Louise Ivers was her name, and she got me to cook all the dishes that I needed to cook for her days off.
Very good.
So I managed to do it without anybody really noticing Louise wasn't there.
So hold on, I have to add chef now to this long list.
Now. So I went to the tourism college in Killybegs, and I did the chef course over a 3-day release program that they had, which was brilliant. And I was going to go on afterwards, and I did 1 year of the degree in advanced culinary art. But I really felt I didn't really want another degree. I had one already, and I wasn't making a huge use out of it, and I didn't think this extra one was going to do a lot more. And I thought for me it would be better to spend my time going to the odd cookery school,
practical
and
stuff,
do practical demos and work with other people, which I still do to this day. And so I got my qualification out of the college, which was great, because then it gave me an insight into the chef's head. You know, a lot of chefs get accused of being temperamental and they panic and they shout and they scream, and you can understand why. Like, it's a huge
big pressure
cooker in a kitchen,
nice and hot,
and it's ready to explode at any given time. And then you go out to the restaurant and there's nice piano music and
it's all calm.
Everybody's drinking a gin tonic or Pinot Grigio and everything's nice and calm, and next thing you go in and
there's bedlam in the kitchen.
So I kind of understood the whole psychology of chef and where everything was coming from, and I was able to, you know, with my qualification then I was able to look at pricing, I was able to plan menus. In the absence of a chef, I was able to understand, you know, how much extra work that if we were doing a new dish, how much extra work that would put on a chef, and did we have enough manpower in the kitchen to do these things. And so we were able to make reasonable and rational decisions and kind of liaison with the chef, so it lent itself to great relationships in the kitchen, and on a busy night when it's under pressure, you
can
get
jump
in
in.
there and you can wash dishes, or you can do starters, or you can help with desserts, or do the main courses. You're very flexible, and it's that extra set of hands for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, which is all they need
Yeah,
to pull
just to get them
themselves
over.
up, you know. And I mean, there's nothing worse than these printers and kitchens that keep churning out reams and reams of paper, and you don't know what's, you know,
Aye, what's what.
half of them could be voids, and you just say, oh my God, how many people's out there, you know, it sounds like 200's come in, and
You are the archetypal jack of all trades, I have to say. Unbelievable.
so going back down to the bar, I then decided I got a guy to manage the restaurant for me, and he was actually doing it better than I was doing it, and I let him at it, and I then was kind of getting a bit frustrated. I was missing the food, but so I turned our back bar into a Gastro Bar in Killybegs and became known as 22 Main Street.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that because we obviously didn't have the high numbers that Kitty Kelly's was doing, because Kitty's could have been doing 80 to 100 a night. We were maybe starting off with 30, 40. But by the end of year two, we were up at about nearly 80 to 100. So both restaurants were doing extremely well. And our style down there was, we really were kind of doing a lot of the shellfish, and we were grilling oysters, we were deep frying oysters with a little bit of bacon and then melted cheese, you know, and
I'm
serving
salivating here. Hugh.
we're doing all that type of thing, and it was really working very well for us, you know. And then, as well as all that, the food scene was improving all the time, and there was small artisan producers moving into the area, and like say Filligan's Chutneys down in Glenties.
I've never heard of them.
They're really, really great chutneys, and I think they got into Harrods there, and
Very good.
they've been in Harrods for a while. So they're, you know, I would say, for example, we were doing calamari with a peach and cardamom chutney, and like a Greek yogurt as well as a dip, you know, which was a big move away from tartar sauce,
Yeah.
or, you know, a mayonnaise dip,
Completely
or
different.
garlic mayonnaise. And so this was all happening as well. So then I established the Killybegs Seafood Festival, and we were using the local tourism college, and we were taking in celebrity chefs from, like say, Neb and Maguire, and there was a guy called Seamus O'Connell down in Cork, and he was doing sushi using potato crisps, you know, and rolling the crunchy crisps inside it, you know, and before he'd roll the sushi roll with
very
the
good.
rice. And he was really interesting, and he was kind of doing an Irish version of sushi.
Yeah, it's a
and-
twist, Harry. Twist
Yeah.
on sushi. Very
and
good.
bacon, and using the nori seaweed as well, as, you know, so it was all a nice combination. It was very cutting edge. So we ran that for about 3 years, and I suppose with my connection with the tourism college, having done the course, then, you know, starting up the bringing in chefs to the area, and using the tourism college as a venue, it was all kind of helping develop a good relationship with the college.
Very good.
And so I was able to kind of, during the summer, I was kind of getting considered for placements for students to come to me and get placed for training.
Very good indeed.
So then I suppose as a result of that, I got, while the Falch Ireland were launching the Wild Atlantic Way as part of the brand development for the west coast of Ireland, and I got selected as a Falch Ireland food ambassador.
Okay.
And I suppose it was from my experience, because you had to be recommended by your peers to get involved in this. So there were 3 that year out of a total of 7 came from Donegal. Another one was Mary McGettigan from The Taste of Donegal, and then Zach Galler, who's quite an established food blogger at the moment.
Okay.
And then you also had Donald Doherty from Harry's, and Harry's Shack, maybe up here in the north.
Yeah, I've heard of Harry Shack. And what were your roles then as food ambassadors?
Well, say like so Donald Doherty was brought on the previous year to me, and then I was brought on the next year, so there was 2 years where they recruited, we'll say 14 food ambassadors from all over the way, wherever the route was. So I suppose our role was, the idea was that we would bring back the message of what local food was, and the sourcing, and the menu.
Provenance, sustainability,
Provenance,
yeah.
food on a plate, place on a plate, and that type. Even though that was gathering its own attraction anyway internationally, I suppose in a sense, if you were a tourist and you came to the west coast of Ireland, you drove up that, and you had the sea on one side, and you had the land and the lambs and the sheep on the other,
Yeah.
and then you went to a menu that night and there was neither fish nor lamb on the menu, and you were getting chicken Kiev, and you didn't see a chicken for the whole duration. This is where the problem was.
And Indian curries, yeah.
Aye,
Absolutely.
so the this was the problem that had to be addressed. But by and large, it's well addressed now. I think people were getting there on their own way anyway by reading trends and seeing what was happening. But it's very successful now, and the brand has developed, leaps and bounds, and we're very lucky where we are in Killybegs in that we have one of the iconic attractions, and that's Sleeve League. And that really pulls a lot of people in, and it's like the highest sea cliffs in Europe.
It's very scary driving up that, I tell you.
Well, now it's been huge improvements on the road, and you wouldn't have. I know what you're talking about, but you're gonna go up and you see your bonnet of the car going up, but you're not too sure how you're
I want to come
back
down again.
You don't know have you gone over the cliff or not. But a lovely wee boat trip you can do from Teelan Port, which is on the Nuala Star. A fella called Paddy Byrne has it, and it takes 2 hours. It leaves every 2 hours from the port. 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
And where does it go?
And it just takes you around the bay and to see the cliffs from the sea.
Oh, it'd be lovely.
And it's one of the most magnificent because views you're ever going to see. It looks like columns from a cathedral going up into the skies. It's really a spiritual experience.
Oh, I'll have to go and do that.
And a nice day, and it's not too choppy. Away you go. He doesn't go out if it's too
rough.
Too rough,
Yeah.
But he's 2 boats now, and he's a good.
Things are going well then for him.
Yeah. So going back to the bar then again, we had a fire in the bar, and my mother, who used to serve Marlin, was upstairs over the bar in bed. And she was like a hedgehog in the bed. She didn't realise there was a fire at all in the house, and she was rescued by the fire brigade just in time.
Thank God.
The fire brigade got a presidential award for bravery. So she's 99 now at the moment.
You're
so
joking.
She's in a nursing home, but she's in great form, and she just had her birthday the last day.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And then the fire came around, say 6 years ago. We were just in the recession, and the whole dining scene had changed, and everybody was rushing down to the bottom and putting on dinner for 2 and a bottle of wine, and discounts, and it's very hard for a restaurant to try and make money at that. You're just really keeping the show on the road, and you might be eating into your savings, and subsidising the event. So it was really a good time for me, because what happened was it knocked my restaurant out of business, because I had to move the bar into the restaurant sector
until the fire was fixed.
Yes, and that kind of gave me a 2-year stop from the food, So when I kind of got out there, I said, God, I'd sold Kitties at this stage, and I was out of the food in 22, and I was saying, I think I'm going to just focus on the bar for a while and just have a little bit more time for myself. Because these things, they're great to start and you get a great buzz out of them, but they do eat you up and they swallow you, at the same time.
In morning to night, no getting away from it.
So as my role then with the food ambassador thing was growing, we were going to Norway on benchmark trips, and then I also was selected to join the steering board for the Donegal Food Strategy to try and bring Donegal up to being a main recognised artisan food producing region in Ireland. And I think after 6 years we have achieved that. We've got great critical acclaim, and we've done things like really good things. We've had, for example, we've brought say people who've these purifiers in Scotland, we'll say, in the Shetlands, and they purify their own oysters and mussels, and they remove the toxins, right?
Okay.
And then by having that done, they can sell to the French market at a premium price. Whereas in Donegal, they weren't doing this, and they were selling to the French market at a depressed price. So we brought these shellfish purifiers over to meet the local shellfish producers, and we've got them now, anybody that got involved, we've got them a much more premium price for their product. When we started off, we didn't have a cheese producer in Donegal, and we have now, which is great, and it's only up the road from Kitty Kelly's.
God, it's unbelievable, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's I'm going to have to think of the name of the cheese. But it's I think it's Ardmore or something like that. No, it's not. It's Killard cheese. And it's it's like a cheddar, a light cheddar, and it's very, very nice. It's
Very
made from
good. And it's
Donegal.
out just by you in Killybegs, eh?
Just past Kitty Kelly's on the way into Sleeve League on the right hand side. It's
Very
a
good.
farmhouse. It is really a farmhouse set up operation, you know.
And quite still a cottage industry, not into the retailers or...
Well, they're just getting into local retailers, you know, and they probably do the food ambassador program with Super Value and shops like that.
Very
They
good,
get
yeah.
access to that. And these were all things that we were trying to work on to improve. Our big challenge now is getting an ice cream producer in Donegal and to produce their own ice cream. I think it's huge. I've just, as I say, back from Cheshire, they have a big operation that started very small and has moved into like a theme park and all the various add-ons for children to do an
Very
activity.
good.
Really, really interesting. They're the second biggest attraction after Chester Zoo. So as a piece of infrastructure in the county, what it would do for bed nights in the area if you had families travelling, and the nearest
To
I
the
can
ice cream
compare
factory? I
is
thought you had a big dairy in
we have
Donegal.
huge dairy,
Yeah.
and we have really wealthy dairy farmers, and we have Donegal creameries that's a huge, and it would be great if we could get them to.
Isn't it amazing that they haven't put two and two together before?
Well, I suppose, you know, they're happy producing milk, but you know yourself, milk quotas are gone, and
It's not
it's
much
a
money, I'm sure,
free-for-all,
anymore.
And you know, you have to look at the whole name of the game from here on in is, you know, adding value to your product, and I think if they were to go down that
No
road,
better way
would
to
be
do it
great.
than produce nice cream.
But it's the add-ons they can do, you know, like go to Tato Park and you'll see exactly what I'm on about,
Yeah.
you know. And people say we don't have the population in Donegal, but they forget about the 6 counties on our border, and they forget about Mayo and Sligo and Leitrim.
Yeah.
And when you put it all together, you have nearly, you know, 1.75 million people on your door, not far travelling time, you know, to go and
I
visit.
spent my whole childhood in Donegal during the summer.
Yeah. So I think there's huge potential there, you know. Anybody watching this now can get their
I get their thinking caps on. You've just given them an idea.
an artist, an ice cream producer,
Absolutely.
their recipe. But there's other people that can go in at a smaller level and, you know, have a few little goats and dairy cows around the place, and children love that. And
Absolutely.
sandpit and
Petting farms and that sort of stuff. So just when you're on that, so how has tourism had an impact on Donegal? Positively, negatively? Not in any way?
Well, Donegal was always the home for people from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And I think probably not as popular now because with the introduction of good airport infrastructure in Northern Ireland with EasyJet and
Yeah, we've got
Ryanair
Derry
and,
Airport on
yeah,
your doorstep, yeah.
people are flying out to Ballymedina and, you know, Croatia and different places.
Yeah, we'd spoken
And
previously, you
Lanzarote.
said about EasyJet had nearly killed the trade.
Yeah. So you're up against that. That's a new competitor. There are people who absolutely love Donegal, and Donegal sometimes, you know, sometimes it's not described as much as a destination but a state of mind, and you have to go there to find it and treasure it, and you know, and it's probably different from most other places in that, you know, people are going and they want to, you know, see, well, Galway for example, and they want the crack and the pubs and a huge traditional music scene.
Yeah.
Donegal isn't really at that level because it hasn't that critical mass of tourism.
No, it hasn't really got that centre the way Galway City
No,
would have, for example.
but it has like huge attractions, you know, and I think people are beginning to discover. We've got a lot of profile. We've been described as the coolest place on the planet, National Geographic. Lonely Planet describes us as you know, the place to visit, and you know, so you know, sometimes when a market is developing, they maintain that the first 2.5% of the visitors are the kind of the discoverers, and they go away and they tell the next 2.5% of the market who are imitators, and they then spread the word very fast, and it becomes, you know, a kind of you reach that critical mass plateau where you get and everybody wants to go there.
Absolutely.
We haven't quite reached that point.
Yeah.
But I do think at some stage we will meet it, and we will get there, and then you'll see. I think what will happen with Donegal is more and more people will go there to relocate. But perfect example for you. There's a lovely lady who's from Gorta Horca originally.
I've been in Gorta Horca.
went off and was working in the restaurant business, food chefing over in Scotland. She came back, she's a small holding, and this goat arrived on her doorstep one day and took up refuge. And she started looking after the goat, and then she got another goat to keep her company. She didn't realise it was a female goat and a male goat she ended up with, and then she had loads of goats. And she's now her own goat meat business. Now, goat meat in Donegal was really never on a menu.
Yeah.
And it's more a Tyrone dish, and it's more a County Clare dish, and maybe Galway. Don't think it even stretched into Mayo. But I was reading recently, it's the most ethical food you can eat at this present moment in time as an alternative to beef, because the goats don't belch the CO2 like the way cows
do, yeah.
and the kid goats are not wanted because the main demand for goats is for goat's cheese, so that's the female goat.
Okay.
So if you were to put kid on your menu, but this woman has actually discovered a niche market for herself, and she accidentally moved over to Garthork to support herself, and her mother helps her out, and they go to all the food festivals and they produce this goat meat. Now, I don't know if you ever had goat meat.
I had goat curry once.
Yeah.
I quite liked it, a bit strong, but it was nice.
Well, the nicest thing you'd ever eat is a rack of goat meat, because it's so flavoured with herbs because of what they eat.
What to eat, yeah.
And you get
Suppose
that
they were waiting
across.
very dad that eat anything, really.
Yeah, and they love herbs, and they love the good herbs, you know. So you're going to get all that marinating through if you kind of like, oozing through the meat. You know?
That's a great story. What do you know what that business is called?
I just offhand I can't. I met her at a food expo there recently, and it just was so taken. And she serves them up. But if you're at a food festival, you'll probably see her. And she uses brioche baps, and she uses some of Finnegan's chutney.
Oh, lovely.
And she, it's a great combination, and it's a great local story,
I'd like to get chatting there.
But saying like, go back to tourism. That's. We've had two examples there. We've had the EasyJet versus the kind of slow tourism, and I think rural tourism's a big thing there to be discovered in Donegal. And there's a girl called Moira O'Gallagher, and she's set up with Airbnb. We've had a decline in B&Bs. At one time, that's where you stayed when you came to Donegal.
That's
was
right.
A B&B, and you stayed with the Banatee, and they've kind of, because of their age and profile, their families rare, and the families do not want to
want to do it.
Want to do it, and these people are stuck with these houses with maybe 4 or 5 ensuite bedrooms, big car parking facilities, and full planning permission, and nobody's run them.
Yeah.
And it would be great to see if the government could introduce some kind of scheme that would incentivise people
to reintroduce them.
And I often think that the backpacker, or the Australian, the Irish person that emigrated to Australia, coming back, their visas are expiring, and they have to come back to do something, And I think we should be thinking of making things easy for them. Like, say for example, they go to a bank to get a loan, their earnings in Australia are not taken into consideration. So what do they have? What kind of earning records do they have to show that they're capable of paying back loans?
Yeah, probably none.
None.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at issues like that as they come up, and come up with solutions for them. But I think Maura Gallagher from Gweedore is a great example. She set up a little Airbnb cottage.
I actually stayed in Gallagher's B&B in Bombay.
That was Hughies maybe.
Just opposite Hughies.
Oh,
yeah. Just opposite Hughies and up a wee lane. We stayed in Mrs. Gallagher's. She was the Banatee. I'm not sure whether they're related or not.
I'd say that's a wee bungalow, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Hughies' mother.
Oh my God,
Kitty.
there you are. No?
So, she did B&B up there. She also did B&B down in the main house. But what I'm saying is, a way back, it was very hard to market yourself. You saw the signs on the road, B&B, Atlantic House or Clover House or something like that. And like, who does that anymore? You don't go from home without having a place to stay.
No,
you're
absolutely
doing it through
not.
Airbnb or bookings.com.
Mm-hmm.
And any B&B that has stayed with or gone down that road has been really full capacity. And if you're not using it, you're not at the races.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an example of where maybe the age group wasn't right for moving with the technology. But it's so easy to sell your Airbnb now rooms or your bookings.com rooms. All you have to do is put it up on that site. And with SatNav and text messages and
Easy.
yeah,
Yeah,
You
and
don't
even
need-
set up your own website. It's another way of doing it too.
yeah, and you don't really need the ban of tea anymore, which or the breakfast, because you can nearly do your own
your
or
own.
continental. Or,
Although if you're looking for the whole experience, I mean, and I remember a turf fire being lit and lovely breakfasts, and actually the men got more than the girls, which I loved. You got an extra slice of bacon.
yeah, I honestly think our figures in Ireland for B&B, you just have to call it decimation, because they have collapsed, and I kind of feel there hasn't been enough done to arrest it, because it's not just the B&B. The B&B is part of the local economy, and if you don't have enough bed nights in your area, those people are going to get into their car and go to the Giant's Causeway.
Yeah, they're going to go somewhere
and
else.
they're not going to stay in your region.
Yeah.
So every region, doesn't matter where you are, should be trying to keep their visitor for at least 2 nights, sell them an extra night, and if they're any good at the hosting, they should be able to really do a good sale job on it. But and I think that's where we're going to miss out a little bit, because they're not there. If they're not there at night, they're not going to be there for the music to help the local public and pay for the band,
Yeah.
create the atmosphere. They're not going to be there to buy the petrol the next day. They're not going to be there to buy the lunch and then maybe the local bar before they go away.
Yeah.
So
So there's a lot of money draining out.
Yes, and I think the source of the solution is to revigorate the B&B sector.
Okay, and have you any plans of doing anything with your own bar in that respect, or?
Well, Hughies Bar, as I say, was bought in 1960, so we're probably the longest serving bar in the region, and under the same family ownership. We have, as I say, we've been very creative. This year, for example, we are introducing a sun lounge with one of these electronic roofs that we remote
Retractable roof?
retractable
Oh,
roof,
very good.
and heated lamps, and when it sun shines, it's a real sun trap, and if it gets anyway moody, tempered, cloudy, we can pull it over
Put it back
again.
over again.
So that's a big plus this year, and I also was planning to put my live music out there and open the doors from the bar so it becomes a natural auditorium.
Oh, very good.
And then we're going back into the food on a smaller scale. We're opening the little Italian kitchen at Hughies.
Brilliant.
So that's going to be a little pizzeria, and we're going to do some artisan toppings, and we're going to try and be very creative there. We're going to do black pudding, Clonakilty black pudding and castle blue cheese. We're going to try some duck hoisin with caramelized red onion and marinated pears.
Very inventive.
So we're really kind of pushing the boat out on the toppings. We're not doing anything else other than wine, craft beers. We're not doing chips. We're not doing desserts or tiramisus, but we are doing a nice Glenellish ice cream tub as you would have bought in the cinema, with a little stick inside.
Oh, lovely.
So it's really
Retro.
It's hip and cool and cash, and I think there are other places doing, like Kitty Kelly's doing the fine food, and Tara Hotel in my town, the Bayview Hotel. They're all doing different things, and 2 really good coffee shops, and a fusion restaurant opening up. So the choice is there, but I just find that sometimes it's not always about the choice of it. It's about, I'm in pizza mode. I want a glass of wine. I want a simple piece of ice cream, and as long as it's tasty and it's good.
People will come back.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big one. Now, we can't seat any more than 22 people. But it's a lovely setting. It's actually our old kitchen that we were brought up in with the Stanley range. It's in the middle of the thing, so the chairs are all around it. So
brilliant.
It's really lovely. It's 2
Very
rooms,
authentic.
and it's 2 rooms together, and they look beautiful. One of the windows looks out onto the main street.
And when's that starting?
We're starting about next week.
Very
So
good.
I have to get my act together here.
I have to
And
come up. It
yes.
sounds gorgeous.
More than welcome. And then we have a room at the back which was the Gastro Bar. I told you we closed that down with the thing. So what we do there now is we do a lot of functions.
Okay.
If we have a slack calendar and we don't have a lot of bookings for a month, we'll do a pop-up theme night. So we'll say, for example, a pop-up Italian, or the last one we did was a pop-up Vietnamese night. And the food is very authentic. And we would do fish in a banana skin, and depending on theme. And you get what it was something like €15, and you got 2 glasses of wine. And,
That's not bad.
But there's very small courses, like tapas sized portions, you know. But and then you'd have music afterwards, or a vintage DJ, and you know, a load of ABBA.
And this is like a separate function room then?
This is my function room at the back. Now I'm about to rebrand that because I don't want to go back to being 22 Main Street, because that
People associated with the food.
The gastro food. So we're calling it Hughies Bar Ella. Now Ella, as in the Irish Gaelic word, Ifada I-L-E, which is the Irish for other. So it's Hughies Other Bar.
Brilliant.
But it's a beautiful room. It's got a big fireplace. It's got sliding barn doors. It's got ladders on the ceiling coming down with lights on them, you know, and it's just very atmospheric.
Brilliant.
And it can do a party function from, you know, 70 to 100. And
so ideal for birthdays or communions or even funeral parties?
Funeral parties, christenings. We've had everybody in, you know.
Brilliant.
The only thing we really don't do is we don't do 18th birthday parties, you know, and we just find the age is too young, and you know, they're not used to being in an environment with booze and all that, so they can be hard.
It can go downhill very quickly.
So it could go downhill, and then you know, every 18 I'll have a friend who's 17 or 16, and then you're into
of course in your dicey area then,
and you can't be, you know, you're worse in the world if you turn them away, so you're better off saying no to an 18th, you know. That's my view on it.
But that apart, it caters for basically anyone.
Yes. Hughies Bar, like we as I say, we got in on the brand gins, and with the 12 premium gins, with the 12 different tonics, pairing them with garnishes, rosemary, basil, you know, the whole shebang. And then we have we do a book club once a month.
Very good.
And that's grown to be...
With wine, no doubt?
Oh yes, with wine. We'll throw up a few sharing boards, and it's very popular now. It's really growing. If we get any bigger, we'll have to move it into the
function
bar
room.
Ella, Bar Ella. So, but it's really nice. We do it in the snugs, and it's really good, and it's kind of... It just brings people out that, you know, wouldn't maybe be out during the week, and a lot of people are not drinking, and driving is a big issue now.
Yeah, of course.
So you have espressos and cappuccinos, and we have
nice
coffee. And the interesting thing about our wines, we do this company in Kildare use casks. So we don't use a bottle of wine, but we have lovely crystal decanters, and we pour the wines into that from the cask, you know, like
direct from the cask.
Now,
so it's like when you get in Italy or you Carafe or France,
we can do all that, and they're called the Wine Lab, and they're really, I got in with them at the very early stages, you know. Now I have to say, it's not many people in Donegal using them, and they keep saying to me, threatening to say that they're not going to send wine up to me all the way to the, but now I think they jest. But you know, Dublin is their big market, you know. Of course. But it's fabulous it's fabulous in the sense, as you know, wine and isn't suited really or designed to be stored in small capacities. And the smaller the bottle, like the quarter bottle you put it into, you need to douse it with loads of sulfates to keep it preserved.
Yes.
And it's the sulfates that will give you the mother of all hangovers the next day. Whereas you could drink oceans and oceans of this
when it's
wine
in the cask,
and you will not get that.
I'm sure there's loads of our viewers will be glad to hear that, Hugh.
Hangover free wine. Well, it's beautiful, and it's really well selectively sourced.
And have you got red, white, different grape varieties, obviously?
From small wineries. Doc. He has a nice Cabernet Sauvignon, a Merlot from there, and he has Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay. Is an Italian Pinot Grigio.
Lovely.
He has an Italian Merlot.
So all the popular ones.
Yeah, it's really, no, I must say, I'm really impressed with it, and it's lovely, and it's just, I love drinking it myself, you know. But
I would maybe try one just to be sociable. And tell me, in terms of Donegal, what's your favourite place? Now, obviously Killybegs, I'm sure, because you're from Killybegs.
Yeah, well, I've places I like going to. There's one real hidden gem. It's called Darris Bay in Rossbeg. It's outside Ardra, and you have to kind of head towards Nairn Portnew where the golf course is.
Yes.
And you swing left, and it's kind of called the Santa Maria Drive.
Right.
And that was one of the Spanish armada boats that sunk there, and that's what it's called, the Sancta Maria sunk at that point. And it's just breathtaking. And this place called Darris Bay Hotel, and it's no insult now to the owners to describe it a bit like Craggy Island where Father Ted was filmed. You know, it's just, now it's not it's so well, it's not a modern hotel.
Only worldly.
Yes, and it oozes charm. And what you see coming in on the sea, the lobster, the crab, you know, the local fish, it's a small fishing community. And it's a big caravan theme, not a caravan theme, but a caravan park, you know, people come down there to keep their caravan for the summer there.
Yeah.
And as I say, you're not far from Portneuf, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's just unbelievably beautiful.
And what's it called again?
It's called Darris Bay.
Darris Bay. Now, I've gone to Ardra all my childhood and then Esbon Arms, and I've never heard of it.
Well, they actually seem to be getting, they're very popular with Belfast people.
Okay.
And they seem to be getting a lot of weddings, and they set up a marquee, you know, and they kind of can take it outside caterers to do it, you know.
Very good.
It's not really on the beach, it's kind of overlooking the bay on the little pier.
All right, okay.
But, you know, there's a lot of vegetation between you and the pier, but it's lovely, rhododendrons and that type of bushing going on with loads of colour. And I just sometimes think when you're sitting there, you think you're in a Greek island. That's the best way.
Well, if you get the weather in Donegal, sometimes it's better in the Greek islands.
Yeah. But, like, you know, the whole Donegal southwest is lovely. You have Ardra. You have
Nancy's Pub.
Nancy's Pub, great. You have Eddie Doherty's weaving. His stuff is weaving. I mean, weaving is, I think, the biggest secret of Donegal is the amount of weavers we have, and the amount of knitwear. I mean, fishermen out of Ireland up outside Kilcar, you know. Studio Donegal in the middle of Kilcar. I mean, Kilcar is this little sleepy village that has full employment. You know, and never went down during the recession or anything, and it's all to do with the wool. Every carpet that's made in an airplane or the seat covering fabric is made in Kilcar.
I didn't know.
So
that.
at every
Amazing.
level of the wool story is taking part there, and a lot of wool shops. And
again, there's more stories that basically highlight how good Donegal is. I mean, we chatted before we come on air, and you were saying about some of the stories that you have to tell and Donegal has to tell could bring far more visitors.
Yeah, it's this is it. You know, I mean, we're improving all the time. We have our new gin distillery that uses seaweed botanicals from the shore, which gives it that nice
Distinctive flavour.
I was going to introduce them this year and going to do a fresh oyster shucked and a little shot of the gin.
And, lovely.
You know, it goes down the hatch, but it's a lovely sensation.
It makes a nice difference from Guinness. You know, it's
Yeah.
Guinness and oysters, Guinness and gin locally.
Yeah. Well, you know, shucking oysters are not easy, and it's a skill in its own.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a video on it sometime.
Absolutely.
Try to open it up.
Are you good at it?
Well, I'm better at it. Yeah. You know what you need? You need the stainless steel glove. You know, beat it glove, and you hold that in one hand, and then you have
turn and twist. I think, do it. Yeah.
Twist. If you think of it in the sense that over here, the knuckle is like the hinge of a door. So you've got to get in on the other side, get in there and pull the door back on the hinge, you know. A lot of people just murder the fucking oyster.
That would be me.
And the oyster's distress coming out, tightens up, you know, so you have to kind of coax the oyster out of the shell nearly.
Brilliant.
And the other wee secret is once you get the shell open, the juice of the Atlantic is in there, and you have to preserve that. You can't let that go.
What? That's where all the flavour is.
And so what you do is spoon. It's attached. The little oyster meat muscle is attached to the roof of the shell that you've dislodged. So you have to go with a spoon and scrape it off that nicely and neatly, and turn the oyster upside down so that the curvy bit is facing the diner. You know, it's not the flat bit.
Make it look nice.
It looks fuller.
Yeah.
You know. And,
I can really taste it.
Yeah. But there's a guy I know in Dublin, and he's down there around, where is he? He's in Temple Bar area. And I mean, it's the tiniest little place. And he has a blowtorch. And if you want, we'll say oysters or gratin, he just takes them to your table, sprinkles the cheese, blows them with the torch, and hands you the old gratin. No cookers, no nothing.
Brilliant. That's like theatre in itself,
Yeah, it is
isn't it?
theatre. It's lovely. You know.
Brilliant.
And then he has all his oysters, you know, zoned where they're from. Like, so it could be Galway oysters or Dingle oysters or Waterford oysters, Carlingford oysters. You know, it's all
Brilliant.
different.
So he has them all dotted around Ireland. So on that, how important do you think food culture is to Ireland?
Well, food is our story. You know, we are an island and we are a food producer. And some years ago, Ireland, under its national development plan, decided it was going to be a centre of excellence for food production at every level, and that applied to us restaurateurs. And when we go away to Spain, and even when I was over in the UK there, I mean, I think things are much more relaxed. They're less regulatory. And then we come back to this, and we're just, all our boxes has to be ticked. Now, it's either a good thing or a bad thing, but the argument is, because we're such a food producing nation, we can't let the production fall down at any level, even at a micro local level. And that's very important, you know. And so, like, you know, the HACCP was designed by NASA for space flights, and now we're using it in kitchens.
Unbelievable.
And it's I know restaurants in UK and everywhere else is using them as well. But when you go to Spain and you go to, you know, you can see cooking happening outside, and
it's not as litigious, for want of a better word. Yeah.
So it's much more relaxed. And
well, in fairness, I would have thought Donegal would be quite like that.
Oh God, no, we're at the cutting edge of
Very good, very good. And tell me, what about what are the key marketing campaigns that you have seen that you've been impressed with to promote Donegal?
Well, I suppose the Wild Atlantic Way has been very successful. It's got, you know, it's the longest world coastal route now. Because
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, because they've measured everything, like in and out of Bantry Bay and all the way up,
all
you
the way
know,
up, yeah.
and there and out, every little craggy inlet is measured, which is great, smart marketing, and it's anybody in the business, I'll say to you, is that it's been a huge saving for them. And I think on the back of the success, other parts of the country were calling on Falsh Ireland to develop other equally as good brands for their part of the woods. So then they developed the Ancient East in Dublin, which, you know, was like Newgrange and all that part of where the Vikings would have arrived and all, you know, that story was put together. And they've kind of replicated their successes from the Wild Atlantic Way and using local source and mead dishes and things that would have been popular way back and putting it on the menus.
Brilliant.
You've had the Boyne Valley, which is up around Virginia, Kells, going into Drogheda. That's been very, very successful and defining itself as a regional food region, you know, a really prestigious food region.
Very good.
And then the latest brand now they have developed is the Hidden Midlands, which is fabulous area because it didn't need developing. And you know, you're talking about Longford, Westmeath, Tipperary, and you know, all these areas that are really
forgotten about sometimes. Yeah.
And they're off you know, like the visitor takes the easy path to go up the coastline.
Yeah.
And that's lovely, but it's to get them into the
Athlones of this world, yeah.
And there's some fabulous food stories all over the country, you know, and lots of artists and producers moving into Westmeath and you know, setting up lovely little bars and restaurants, Gastro bars.
And it's brilliant. And what about Donegal itself? What anything that just really impressed you about Donegal, or anything we could do to improve it?
Well, I believe that Donegal, as I said earlier, it's really a state of mind, and it's how you market a state of mind to a person as opposed to a destination.
Okay.
And it's a subtle piece of marketing we need, and but it's a beautiful story. I mean, the landscape tells the story, and I suppose really more use of video clips, and that is, you know, one time it was all about SEO.
Yeah.
I think it's about probably is it VEO?
SEO still, but content and video is where it's at.
And I think that's where you know, we need to develop that end of it for ourselves. And it's we have a lovely story to tell.
I agree.
And people say we speak very kind of lyrically, and there's a nice melodic kind of
like a lilt.
nuanced
Yeah,
lilt to our voices. I'm not too sure. Somebody described me as sounding like Daniel O'Donnell one time.
Yeah, in fairness you do, but your Donegal accents are actually quite northern. They're not too dissimilar to Belfast. You listen to maybe Shay Given or Packy Bonner speaking.
Yeah.
You know, they're quite northern, obviously. But I mean, like the 6 counties northern.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, Donegal people migrated to and emigrated to Scotland.
Yeah, Glasgow. Yeah.
Glasgow, and then they moved down to Birmingham and Liverpool and Newcastle and anywhere there was mining. So they have well travelled and they pick up nuance and they pick up accents very quick. So I think we're like a melting pot.
Absolutely, but your accents are lovely, nice soft sort of lilt to it, where I think ours are quite harsh.
I will just soften this up.
And tell me, I wanted to ask you about Board Bia. Did Board Bia help with food and marketing or anything like that in Donegal?
And they do, but Board Bia is like, you can use it as a resource. Like say you want a recipe and you want a good old traditional bacon cabbage recipe and how it's been modernised and given it a new look. Or you can use Board Bia for help for export, which is where they really probably play a blinder there.
Okay.
And then you can obviously, not too sure who did they actually, the green origin. I'm not too sure did Board Bia bring it out or who brought it out, but I'm sure they're in there in the development of it.
Okay.
And then they put their hands to many other projects as well, or they give endorsements, to we'll say, I'm sure in food innovation hubs and that type of thing, and maybe they team up with Chagas, which is the farm development group,
Okay, and would they team up with Fulcha at all, or?
Well, I suppose they do. Fulcha Ireland has really developed their own food tourism chapter, because, like, as you know, the slow food thing really came out of California.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't come out of California, it came out
Southern
of
America, Southern States anyway.
Moved from there, and I think California gave it the best spin on it, and kind of took it to their hearts. And then that's kind of become a global movement, and I suppose as a tourism marketing agency and as tourism group, you just don't take a holiday. I mean, the things you remember in a holiday is your food experiences, but there wasn't really, all the emphasis was on where you stay and what you do.
Yeah. But
you have to kind of factor in to strengthen the food experience. And as good as we are at Irish food, we're still, if you do searches on us, we're not, if you say world's best cuisines, we're not going to be coming up there at number 1 or 2, So I think we have to do work.
Yeah, we undersell ourselves quite a bit, don't we?
And we have to create. Zach Gallagher now in Donegal is very good at creating, getting people to tag dishes as Irish food.
Brilliant.
And the more people tag their dishes as Irish food, the more it'll appear in searches, and push us up there. Yeah. And that's as simple as we sometimes,
we hide our light under a bushel.
We do,
I think it's a cultural thing, isn't it? Yeah, we do indeed. And in terms of food and drink in Ireland, what's the future in your opinion?
Well, I do believe food is never going to go out of fashion because we have to eat it, and there's always going to be a demand. There's always going to be competition. You see supermarkets moving into the space of two dinners at home and a bottle of wine for 12 or 14 euro.
Yeah.
And that's an area that restaurants can't compete
with. Yeah.
The best thing we have is our psyche as an Irish people, because we're lonely creatures and we don't like staying at home. We get cabin fever and we have to be out, and we miss the call of the wild, and that's just our genetic code, and we have to get out there, and we might try and stay off drink and food for a while, but by Jesus, we do have to rush out there.
If you look at the Irish diaspora throughout the world, actually, you're so right about that.
Yeah. And I remember this guy knew in Northwest Tourism, was kind of a predecessor to Donegal Tourism, and Paul McLean was his name, and he says, whatever it is about us, we could go into a very comfortable bar and there'd be lovely seating and there'd be lovely background music and there'd be a fire and there would be chit chat, and somebody would come in and say, Jesus, you can't get in down the road in such a pub, it's jammers, and we'd be up out of the seats and we'd go down there to be crushed to death, and that's just the way we're
the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, in terms of Hughies, what's the future?
Well, I believe our future is because of the way we're composed as a pub with a whole series of little rooms. You move from one to the other, and it's like taking a little journey. And you can go in one door and out another door, and obviously with smoking areas as well out the back and this type of thing. You can just make a complete journey, and you can go from food to a good quality cocktail to having a party out the back, and it works beautifully.
And a pizza on your way around.
And I think it can work for wedding after parties and meeting points, and and I think when you're doing a food offering, even as basic as doing pizza, as long as you're doing it right, and people will
they'll come back.
Yeah.
And tell others, more importantly.
Yeah, this is it.
And if anyone wants to find out about Hughies, I know you're in the middle of getting the website built, but you've got a Facebook site?
Yeah, we have Hughies Bar in Killybegs, really, is our Facebook page, and you might find two of them actually there. But
brilliant, and I'll put some links underneath this video.
Mm-hmm.
So Hugh, that was absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that very interesting story.
Thank you.
And I will hope to see you soon in Hughies Bar in Killybegs.
We'll work
very soon.
We'll work on your accent.
Good man yourself. Thanks very much, Hugh. So that was Amazing Food and Drink TV with the inimitable Hugh O'Donnell from Hughes Pub in Killybegs, and I really hope you go up there and give Hugh a bit of a turn because it's a fantastic place. Thanks very much for watching.